Alright, so in this video I want to quickly talk about the different color types that are commonly used. Now I'm not going to go over all of them, but I'm going to go over the ones that you'll see for the most part, the most common types. So let's create a file called 04_colors.html, and let's put our boilerplate in here, and we'll go ahead and change the title to colors. Let's add in our style tags, and as far as the body, let's just put a couple headings. Let's do an H2 here, and an H3, and then up in the style I'm gonna grab the H1 as a selector and give it a color property, which is going to be the color of the text. Okay, now as far as colors go, anything I'm going to show you, you can use for the color property. You can also use for the background color. You can also use for a border, anything. And the first type is a name, so we can put like red in here. So let's save this and let's run it with via live server. So open that up, and of course we have a red heading. So this is a color name. Now, in addition to the common colors like red, blue, green, we have a bunch of not so common colors, like for instance coral. If I save that, you can see we get coral. And in VS Code, if I just put any letter in, like a G, it's going to show us all the different options for the different color names. If I put an A, you see all these different colors. We have aqua, aquamarine, azure, B, all these, beige, blue violet, burlywood, some really weird names. But anyways, these are colored names. So the second color type that we can use is an RGB value. So for the H2, let's say RGB. And this takes in three values, red, green, and blue. And each value should be anywhere between 0 and 255. So if I do 0, that means that the value for red is 0. Okay, let's do green 0 and blue 0. And if I save that, it's going to be black because we have no presence of red, green, or blue. Now the highest you can go is 255. So if I say 255 for the first one here, and in VS Code it even gives us a little preview here, which is nice. But if I save that, we get red. Okay, now if I wanted it slightly darker, I could do like, I don't know, 210. You can see now it's darker. And let's say I wanted to do all blue. I could go to the last one here. 255 is the highest, and it's as blue as it can get, really. Now there's a lot of different color combinations. Obviously, it can be anything between 0 and 255 for all of these. So if I do, like, let's say 100 of green and maybe, I don't know, 20 of red and save, we get this blue color. Let's tone this down a bit. We'll say like 120 and save, and we get this color, which is like a grayish blue, and it gives you a little preview right here. So just remember that all zeros is black, and then if you do all 255s, take a crack at what that's going to give us. If all zeros are black, then all 255s are going to be white, as you can see, and you can't even read it because the background's white, but as you can see, it is there. So that's red, green, blue, or RGB. Now the third type is the most common and the one that we'll be using the most, and that's hexadecimal, or hex, which is a base 16 number, and it pertains to the composition of a certain color in the RGB space. So it's always going to start with a number sign, and it's going to be 6 or 3 characters that are going to be letters and or numbers. For numbers, it's going to be either 0 to 9, or for letters, it'll be A to F. So all zeros is going to be black, and then all Fs is going to be white. Now, just like RGB, we have red, green, blue. In hexadecimal, we have red, the first two, green, the second two, and blue, the last two. So if I wanted red, I could do FF for red for the first two, and then 00 green, 00 blue, and that gives me red. Okay, if I wanted blue, I'd put F for the last two. like that. And if I did FF in just the middle, it'll be green, and then any combination of any of those. So just like RGB, it's going to give us just a color based off of the values of red, green, and blue. Now, obviously, you're not going to remember all these different hex codes. You may have some preferred colors that you use often that you'll remember, but there's plenty of websites and software that you can use to reference different colors, and I'm going to give you an example in a minute. But what you do want to remember is obviously black, which is all zeros. Now, when you have a hex value that's all the same, you can actually cut it down to 3. So 3 zeros is black and 3 F's is white. Okay, you want to remember that. And then anything else that's going to be all the same, like let's say 3 D's or 3 C's, it's going to be a shade of gray because all the red, green, and blue values are the same. Same thing if we do like F4 3 times. That's going to be some shade of gray. If we do E3, that'll be a shade of gray. As you can see, it's very light. So some common ones that I use are 333, which is almost black. It's a really dark gray. I think it's cleaner than using jet black, so I use it a lot for backgrounds. If I want a light background, a lot of times I use F4, like that. So those are just some of the ones that I keep in mind. As far as colors, like different blues or reds and stuff, I'll use a reference like this website here. This is color-hex.com. So we just have a palette here of different colors. These are just the latest favorite colors. But we can go up here and we can use the color palette. But if I click one of these, like let's say this blue right here, let's say we're building an application or a website and we like this blue. If I click on that, it shows us the hexadecimal, the RGB value, and then other color types as well that I didn't talk about, like HSL, HSV. And you can use these in CSS, but I don't, and they're not that common. Also, what's cool about this site is if you go down, you have a palette of different shades, okay, different shades and tints that have to do with this hexadecimal value, because often you're going to want a color palette or a color scheme in your website or your application with colors that relate to each other. So you might have, buttons that have this color and maybe your background has this color or something like that. And then down here you can see the percentages of RGB. So this gives you a lot of information on different colors. Gives you examples in CSS. So really, really helpful site. I would definitely bookmark this site. Another good one is htmlcolorcodes.com. And this one here, you can see we have a color palette. We can just kind of slide and it gives us the hex value, the RGB, the HSL. So this is a pretty cool site as well. Down here we have a color chart. We can click and it shows us in the header the different values. All right, so you'll learn more as we go along, but I just wanted you to understand these 3 different types of colors that we can use in CSS. And of course, you can use color names. I prefer hex. Like if I have to make something white or black, I'll use the hex value. A lot of people have asked me why. Why don't I just use white or black? But I like to be consistent. I don't like to have color names mixed with hex values. It's just it's just my thing. But you can do it any way you want. So just keep that in mind. Everyone's different. Everyone does things differently. All right, guys. So that's it for this one, and I'll see you in the next video.